my name's Neil Morby. I met Dom at a really nice event with Build, and that was I did a little talk for those guys, and we actually did some dancing in that talk. I'm not going to do any dancing in this talk. Sorry, guys. But I'm going to give you, try and give you like a brief overview of what mindfulness is, how it might be useful to you, and what else might be interesting. I kind of tried to have a little think about customer experience. It's not really my world. You know, your terminology is not my world. But, you know, you might be able to take some of this and turn that into your lingo, you know, in terms of, I don't know what you call them, contact points and things like that. So yeah, but I'd be interested to hear that feedback at the end about how you feel it relates. Okay. So, oh, no, too fast. Slow down. It's not going to go, is it?
Don't worry.
Hey! So, Jon Kabat-Zinn is an American microbiologist and physician. He took a lot of the Buddhist traditions, and actually all the religious contemplative traditions, and put them into like a medical model. And he made something called mindfulness-based stress reduction and mindfulness-based cognitive therapy. The idea was to take a lot of the benefits that we get from religions like Buddhism and look at the science behind them. And here's his definition of mindfulness. Mindfulness is paying attention in a particular way on purpose, so, you know, on purpose, doing it willingly, and in the present moment, non-judgmentally. So it's quite a mouthful, and we're going to go into that a little bit. And I've got my own ideas of what mindfulness is. So why is it useful? Let's assume you're going to cross this road on the left, nice and easy. The road in the middle, a little bit more tricky. You've got to pay attention to what's going on. The road on the right, there's a lot of distractions. Yeah, and this is kind of like daily life. Lots of choices, lots of distractions. Maybe a really fast car goes by, lots of noise, and you get distracted. And of course, what happens? Squish. So yeah, exactly right. So we teach children the basic tenets of what mindfulness is really all about. I mean, mindfulness really is child's play. That's basic core. Stop, look, listen, and think. Very simple. What we're asking us to do in mindfulness is to just stop for a moment, pause, have a little look at what's really going on. Listen, but not just to the outside, but also what's going on inside. And that will allow you to think more clearly. That can be applied to both you as an individual, but also as a company in a larger sense. Just going to keep pressing buttons. Thank you. Can you be my prompter? Yeah. That'd be great. So let's, mindfulness could potentially, now I've put that in red, could potentially, because I think one of the issues with mindfulness, or with anything actually, is the promise of what things can deliver. So let's have a quick look. So it can make us safer because we can be more aware of the risks. So stop, look, listen, think, so like we just discussed. Next one, please. It can keep us calm in difficult situations or in the face of troubling thoughts or bodily stress. Now, there's a thing here around troubling thoughts, bodily stress. Mark Twain had a fantastic quote. I've lived through some terrible things in my life. Some of them actually happened. Do you know what I mean? There's a difference between physiological stress, that very healthy stress, that when a car is driving at you very fast, your impulses react and you move out the way. And psychological stress, which is the ruminating thoughts. Why did that guy drive so fast? What's his problem? I hate drivers today. People should be more careful. Let's start a whole scheme about road safety, you know, and it escalates. So we create stress. You can create as much stress sitting in your bed thinking about the day ahead as actually living in that day, in fact, probably more. Next one, please. Oh, sorry. We could therefore respond from our neocortex, your rational mind, rather than our adrenaline-filled amygdala. So this is a little bit of real quick brain psychology, brain neuroscience for you. Here's a little model of the brain, my hand. This is kind of what it looks like. On the outside, you've got this neocortex, the new, neo meaning new. And this part of the brain is the newest part of the brain. It's evolved to hold our rational thinking mind, our imagination, and it's really helped us to thrive and become the most powerful species on the planet, because we can imagine things that don't exist. We're the only animal that can do that. So what happens when you get into this physiological stress? The amygdala, the very old part of the brain, will open the brain up now. This part of the brain right in the center, connected to the spinal cord, that's the part that receives the information and deals with that, quick responses. So if I had to go, wah! Like that, what did you feel? You felt something. That was your amygdala kicking in, helping you. And when we're in those responses, you might call it fight, flight, freeze response. Your rational mind goes like this. Poof! You don't need that so much. So the functions of the rational mind are reduced. And of course, if you react from that place, you're not thinking clearly. You're thinking from a place of fear. Does that make sense? Cool. So there's more to that, and there's a lot more that happens in the body, but I'm only going to really skim on some of these things. It can also help us savor experiences and remember how wonderful it is to be alive. Really, this is, for me, this is the reason I do mindfulness. Could work become more fun? So there's a thought that, you can do lots of things in your day. Some of them are kind of depleting of your energy, And some of them seem to give you energy. They seem to be, oh, I like that. I'll have a bath. Oh, that feels good, You might have a conversation with someone, and that seems really good. Other times, you might have a conversation with a difficult customer, and that can feel depleting, really difficult. But the science shows us that it's how you think about those things, your thoughts, that actually make them depleting or energizing. Not so much the activity itself, but the thoughts. Next slide, please. Okay, so here's a little video. Can we play this? If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It was a video link to the internet. Good, it didn't work. That's good, because it saves me time. Basically, the video went something like this. Why should you live next to the sea? Living next to the sea is fantastic. Water feels pleasurable on your body, always. The colors of the sea will calm you when you look at them. Da, 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 da. Now, this is what I'm talking about, the promise of mindfulness. Mindfulness is just a tool like any other tool, and it's how you use it that's important. The tool cannot give you anything, in the same way that a hammer cannot give you anything unless you learn how to use it, actually practice, and then use it. So mindfulness will not deliver anything to you. Mindfulness is simply being aware. It's the practice, the process of doing it that actually gives you something. Okay, so the destination for mindfulness is not the point. Next one, please. Mindfulness is hindered, therefore, by goals and expectations. So that's a tricky thing, right? Because we all need to have, or we think we need to have, goals and expectations in life. So this becomes a little bit tricky now. However, mindfulness, if you seek first the goal, so, I'm doing mindfulness because I want to be calm, well, you create a paradox. Because if you are doing something, you are striving to do something to be calm, you shoot yourself in the foot. You're going to go round in circles chasing your tail all day long, looking for that calm. Okay, so next one, please. Willful experience changes your relationship with something. So I can't teach you to swim. You have to get in the water and swim. Okay, so you might, can the next one, please? You might call this conscious contact. Yeah, I can't tell you what it's like to be wet. You just put, oh, that's wet, that's wet. Your experiential doing of something changes your relationship with it, and I think we forget that. I think that we often think about thinking about something, and we think, oh yeah, I know that experience, that's no problem, just do this, this, this. But it's actually experiencing something can really change and help you have a deeper understanding of something. And that's why for mindfulness, meditation, or whatever it is you're doing in mindfulness, it's the doing of it that's the important part. the practicing. Okay, next one, please. So the process of experiencing and learning is the point. The process is the point. The process is the point. Okay, next slide, please. I feel very serious up here. Okay, so I'm going to really quickly just pop them all up, all the 7 ones, just down the left side. Thank you. So these are the 7 principles that Jon Kabat-Zinn kind of teased out of some of the meditative practices. So we've got non-judging, not getting caught up. Patience, beginner's mind, so seeing things with the real fresh eyes. Trusting that your intuition and your own authority. Now that's a really tricky one, especially in the modern age. Trust is something in ourselves that we've lost a little bit of, partly because of so much authority in the world. We're always seeking something outside to tell us what we can do. So it's a little bit of an interesting one, though, with trust. Non-striving, I talked about that with striving to be calm. Acceptance, which is something that we often resist. It's a word that we find very difficult because we often think of acceptance as being, well, if I accept something, I'll become a doormat, right? Acceptance does not mean inaction. Acceptance means just simply seeing what is. Okay, there's a problem here. The problem is X, Y, Z. Let's really accept that, and then we can actually do something about it. Until we do that, we're always skirting around the issue. Letting go. Okay, I'm going to come back to letting go. Can you load up the next 7 on the right, please? So these are kind of the opposites of these. What I'll do is I'll send these slides out so I don't feel you have to furiously write everything down. One of these interesting ones is that the opposite of acceptance, if you think about accept, is denial of something. So playfulness and presence, this is kind of my take on the whole thing. I struggle with seriousness, to be honest. You can tell by my attire. I just find it boring. And so I think for me, when I think about mindfulness, I really think it's just child's play. When you look at children playing, what do? They're fully engaged in what they're doing. They're in flow, they're playing, they're having a great time, they're creating. This for me is mindfulness in action. They haven't yet matured to the point where they can regulate some of that. Sure, we're adults now, we can do that. But we've removed ourselves from our experience to some degree, from our senses, very, very simple, from playing, from flow. Because there's lots of other things that are very important to do. So it's very confusing. And when things are confusing, where do we go? We go to the amygdala. Because confusion is essentially a feeling of fear in the body. It's very subtle, but it's there. And so we won't be acting from the clearer part of our mind, in touch with our intuition. Okay, so we can load the next one up. So this is my definition. Choosing to be with your experiences, not in resistance or denial, through the senses, so looking, seeing. So when I say looking, we can all look. I can look. But can I really see something? So can you hold your hand up in front of your face and just really look at it and really see? Like, let's see it as if for the first time. Like, what is this hand? Look at the little scars and the little cuts and the little marks on it, and think of the story that this hand has gone through today. Where's this hand been today? Yeah, it's funny, right? So this is looking and seeing. This is really seeing, yeah? And when the same thing with hearing, you listen, but do we really hear? We hear this annoying sound in the background, and we think, oh, God, that sound is so annoying. But if you stop and you just listen and you really think about the quality of that sound, it's not so annoying anymore. It's just this sound, and you can investigate what's interesting about it. So this is the kind of in presence. So next slide, please. Playfulness is interacting in the world in flow, done purely for the love of it, for the joy. So, you watch kids, they go with what they want, Now, there's a trick to that, because the artist learns to play on demand. And there is a trick to that. When you want to play, well, if I say to you, play, Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah.
Candy Crush, wasn't it?
Great, okay. It's like we need something external to help us. But children don't need that. They just go into a playground, they just, oh, what's that over there? You know, they're fascinated by everything. But we've become reliant upon things to help us with that. And I want us to take a little bit of a step back and just see if we can connect with that. So can you go to the next slide? And part of that is this idea of flow. So do you guys know what I mean by flow? So if I describe it as when individuals are in full presence and when the challenges are just balanced with the individual's capacity to act. Can anyone describe to me a flowful experience? Yeah.
It's when you get on your computer and then you look at your watch and it's been half an hour later.
So this is an interesting one. That I'll question that in a minute, but thank you for that. That's interesting. So sometimes there's a kind of like timelessness quality to it. Yeah. Autopilot can be something whereby a learned behavior becomes so ingrained that we just do it without thinking. Flow has a little bit more of engagement with it. So riding your bicycle on a really nice day, you might be like, oh, this is great. And you're noticing, if you're going really fast downhill, you're really in it. You're like, whoa, dodge that, whoa, dodge that. It feels great. Yeah, that's flow. Okay, next one, please. So play, can you load the next one? Play is hindered by words. So language here becomes really important. I'm sure you guys are familiar with all the stuff around language. I personally feel that these words are troublesome little words, should, need, must. And we want to be really careful when we use them. Not that we obliterate them from the English language, but just that we qualify why we're using these words. So, for instance, I should be good today. I should be a good speaker today. Suddenly I feel tension in my body. Okay? How about, if I want these people to respect me, I should give my best effort. That's a slightly different quality to it. And I'm not reliant upon your favor, so it's okay. So there's a careful use of language here. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, I'm going to just load up all these quotes for me, right down at the bottom. I'm going to give you some quick quotes from some of my favorite philosophers. Alan Watts, this is the real secret of life, to be completely engaged with what you're doing in the here and now. Instead of calling it work, realize it's play. God, imagine if we could do that. Imagine if we could actually see some of our difficult tasks as gameful. That would be really interesting. Roald Dahl, life is more fun when you play games. And this is the chap that came up with the term flow. And he says the task is to learn how to enjoy everyday life without diminishing other people's chances to enjoy theirs. And you might also think about how that's linked with sustainability. You know, there's the United Nations, I think it's 17 goals for sustainability. The point of sustainability is to enjoy the now while not trashing the environment for the future generations, yeah? To enjoy the now. So I think that's really key. Okay, next one, please. The point is, you'll never be able to stop thinking. The same way as the heart continues to beat, that's its job. You don't want the heart to stop beating. You can't stop thinking. The mind is this curious, fascinated thing. It's going to continue to think. You're always going to be paying attention to something. I sort of think of paying attention a bit like a spotlight. You know, it's always on something. So it's on the carpet. It's on my hand, through my senses. It's on my mind a lot of the time. Yeah, it's on my thinking thoughts. Okay, next one, please. Okay, so we'll skip these two. And the next one. So we did the look at your hands. So now I want you to hold your hands up, and with me, we're going to clap 3 times. 1, 2, 3. So on 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and close your eyes and just put that spotlight of attention now in the senses in your hands. And just notice, without judging, just be with whatever senses, whatever sensations are present. Let them be there for a moment and just breathe with them. And then I'd like you to move that spotlight of attention to the backs of the hands. Let's go to the next one, please. So if you can load all these up, I think there's a problem with the slideshow on this one, so press it a few times. So mindfulness is a balance. The word meditation comes from middle, Greek word medi, and it's a balance of feeling and thinking. If you were to put a number, a percentage on the amount of time, the percentage of time in your day you spend thinking in your mind, focused mainly on the mind, what number would you say roughly? 100. Yeah, it's high, right? It's like 80, 90, 100. Meditation is just a short practice. In the same way that nowadays, in the 60s, someone had seen someone out for a jog, they would have said, "Who's chasing you?" But now it's completely normal, right? It's completely normal. So in 10 years' time, my prediction is that mindfulness, meditation, will be seen as normal as going for a jog. Because it's a practice. It's keeping yourself fit. And if we're spending 100% of our time here in the thinking mind, we are disassociated from our bodies, and we're disassociated with our intuition. And our intuition is key to decision making. So it's meditation we want to be aware of feeling, purely just to balance the scales a little bit, to give us a more rounded experience of life. So let's go to the next slide. Why bother to feel? Well, like I said, you always have choices in life. Every single moment of every day is a choice. You have a choice. Do you want to look at me? Do you want to look at her? Do you want to look at him? Do you want to think about this? Do you want to think about that? Those are the simple, small ones that we don't even realize we're making. Then you've got the bigger decisions like, what shall I wear today? What shall I do right at this second in time? Shall I go on Facebook? Whatever. Yeah, lots of decisions. And then the really big decisions, so, it keeps going. But it all starts with that connection with what you feel, because that informs how you make decisions. Your intuition, it starts here inside. And I think of it a little bit like a radio. It's not a binary thing. It's not like, wow, I'm mindful, or, oh, I'm unconscious. Well, it is when you go to sleep. But it's a bit like tuning in. Yeah, tuning in. You're just like, okay, I'm going to tune in. Yeah, tuning in. And then I talked a bit about the neuroscience of that, this idea that the brain, there is science behind this. There's a lot of research behind meditation and mindfulness. Okay, next slide, please. And ultimately, what it's really telling us is what's really healthy or harmful for us in this moment. Okay, next slide. Training the mind. If you can load all these up, that would be great. So there's a lovely analogy that the mind is a little bit like a puppy. How am I doing for time? Oh, 3 minutes left. So when you train any animal, you have two ways of training it. One way of training it is a bit like the way they train horses or puppies is the kind of punishment method. Yeah, every time they do something wrong, you punish them. How many minutes? 15, thank you. The other school of thought is a bit like the horse whisperer, or there's even a program on TV, the dog whisperer. It's fantastic. And what they do is they make friends. They understand the animal. They learn the animal what they want, and they work with that. And that's how we want to use this with our minds. Okay, so every time your mind is going to get distracted from something, if you punish it for being distracted, you're using negative reinforcement, and you're going to build up a lot of stress in the body. If, however, you use some clever way of reinforcing positively, coming back to center, letting go, forgiving yourself for making mistakes, you reinforce the effort of doing, of being. Next slide. And ultimately, you're trying to make friends, not enemies, which feels so much better, let's face it. Okay, next slide. Thinking plays a really big part of this, and I think a lot of us don't quite see that the way we think about things basically is the reason why they're either good or bad. Shakespeare said, nothing is either good nor bad, but thinking makes it so. So let's have a look at that. I think of positive thinking a little bit like on a battery. Yeah, positive creates, and negative takes away. Very simple, yeah? Subtract, minus, plus, addition. So these are kind of things that create, in the here and now, you could be coming up with ideas, you could be making art, you could be writing something, you could be making something. Future, you could be planning something. And past, of course, memories, fantastic. Or thinking about the evidence, the reasonings behind things. And then let's have a look at the negative side of things. Oh yeah, sorry, some little funny animation. So the negatives take energy. Now, I haven't actually put a thing here because no thing is negative. Even an emotion isn't negative. Anger. Well, what's positive about anger? Releasing. Yeah, what else? Signal. It's a signal that what? That something.
Warning
something's like a warning. There's a problem. There's something that doesn't tally with the way I think it should be.
Concentrates the mind on a particular issue.
Right. It can concentrate you. You can be really focused with anger. Yeah. It also gives us a lot of honesty. Yeah. If you ever want honesty, look to an angry person. They're going to be really honest with you. Now, these are the things that take energy within the thinking mind. Shoulds, needs, musts, ruminating on things outside of our control, and assuming our expectations. Okay, next slide. And I love this quote. The words you speak become the house you live in. I try and live by this quote, fail quite regularly. But if we are aware that not only the words we say, but the words we think form our environment, that this body that we're living in. They form the environment of our relationships. Well, we'll become a lot more careful about the way we speak, the way we think, and the things we do, because that is creating our world. Next slide, please. Okay. So, this is tricky, because I struggle not to smile. I want you to do nothing. Do nothing. I don't want you to do anything. I want you to imagine smiling. So just imagine what smiling feels like. Feel into that area of your face that smiles, but without doing anything. So you can close your eyes to this if you want. I'm going to close mine.
Couldn't help smiling.
Ah, so you smile, great. I mean, I was holding back a little bit, because it's just very natural for me. Whenever we do anything, you have to imagine it first. It's how, if I reach for this thing, my mind is making a mental picture of me doing that so that I can do it. It's just that we're so fast at the things that we've become accustomed to. They go straight through our spinal cord into our amygdala. It's just processes like that, without us even realizing that we're doing a mental image of this beforehand. So we are creating images in our mind constantly. So if we are being pessimistic, we are literally manifesting that in the world. We are praying for what we don't want. Worrying is like praying for what you don't want. Okay, next slide. And what I really would like to encourage, and if you load all these ones up, that'd be really great, is what I call loving kindness, loving awareness, which is this combination, not just being aware, because that can be quite draining. It can be quite hard work, to be honest. Constantly aware of everything that's going on is a pain in the bum. But having a kind of playfulness, a positive thinking aspect to it, you accept what's going on. You feel good about it. You go to what you feel good, what feels good. Okay, next slide. Okay, now, that can be difficult in stressful situations. Because what happens in a stressful situation, I described it earlier, here's the brain, poof, we don't need this function so much, so it goes straight to the amygdala. We're in our stress. So how do we get this back? How do we come back into the rational mind? Well, one way is this tool, very, very quick meditation tool I'm going to teach you, called a FOFBOK. It stands for, if you can go to the next one, feet on floor, bum on chair. So, we're going to do that. I'm going to use my highly technological bells. And what I'd like you to do is just sit in a posture that feels alert and awake. Now, whatever that is for you, I'm not going to prescribe what that is, but alert and awake. There's a nice thing sometimes is feet on the floor feels quite nice, but if that doesn't feel right for you, do what feels right for you. And what we're going to do is just come into the body for a period of about 1 minute and just feel the body. So feet on floor, bum on chair. So when you're ready, closing the eyes. And taking just a few deep breaths to start with. Taking a few deep breaths just oxygenates the body and puts us in contact with it. And then I'd like you to bring that spotlight of attention down to the feet, in contact with the floor. And just allow yourself to be curious about those sensations again. What's it like wearing socks and shoes right now? What's it like at the top of your feet, on the upper side of your foot? And then in your ankles. Continue to breathe as you do this, just putting your spotlight of attention and running it up the legs, past the knees, and then towards the bum on the chair. So feeling that gravity, that pressure between your bottom and the chair. Continuing to breathe and just feel. And when you come up to the torso, what I'd like you to do is just really watch the breath, almost as if it's like the sea coming in and out. Nothing to change, nothing to do. Just be with it. Breathing in, breathing out. And watch your sensations as I describe the next exercise, keeping your eyes closed. So in a moment, I'm going to ask you to talk to someone else. So watch your emotions as I say that, watch your sensations. And I'm going to ask if you can try and maintain some of this quality of attention in the body while you listen in a non-judgmental way as possible to that other person. So you're going to have a 50-50 focus. So when you're ready, opening your eyes, turning to the person next to you, and if you're not near someone, you can move chairs. Okay. You all got someone? Great. So before you jump into conversation, I want one person we're going to have a timed talk. We're going to have a timed talk. So one person, you're going to describe your journey to here today. So pick whoever that person's going to be, just between yourselves now, and I'm going to time you 1 minute of just talking about how you got here today, what it was like, and what you felt. The other person, purely listen and give little nods, little smiles, but no talking. Okay, so 1 minute. Okay, turn it down. Can you go to the next slide? Oh, previous one. Oh yeah, great, that's what I wanted, thanks. Great, and coming to silence. And just be with your body for a second and just let all that information just be in that body. Notice what sensations you're feeling just as the body receives all that stuff that's just been said. And also if you're the speaker, just notice how you feel. Notice how you feel having shared all that little connection you just had. And now I want to swap. But the person on the other side, I didn't prep you, but I would like you to reflect some of what you heard. So what was the kind of things you heard, and how did it make you feel? Did it remind you of anything? But starting with reflection. And again, the listener, to just listen, maybe give little, signs that you're listening. Okay, so when you're ready. What's the next slide? Oh. Too big. Ah, keep it up there. Actually, no, go back, so they'll be distracted from it. Yeah, that's great. Okay. Coming back to silence. And again, just close the eyes and just notice how that feels in the body to have shared some of that stuff and also to have heard some of that stuff. Just for a moment, just feel into the body. And opening the eyes, coming back to the room. So, how was that? Any curiosities? Thoughts? Yeah?
I found it really hard not to talk.
Found it very hard.
Impossibly hard. I was like, so sorry anyone I'm networking with later. I'll probably talk later.
That's a great insight, right? To notice that need, that compulsion to talk, to, and whatever the reasons are, let's just let it be there, that compulsion, and watch it. Okay, anything else?
It felt really nice, but I even really listened to everything I said, but she added more colour to what I said, which I really loved, actually.
In the reflecting?
In the reflecting, intuitively, she understood perhaps the feeling that I was experiencing and put it into words.
Fantastic, thank you. There was another one, I saw some hand over here. Okay, thank you. That's all right, we're almost finished. Anyone else? So this is interesting, isn't it? Human connection, has a real fun quality to it. And when we really take time to listen, maybe do the next slide. I've got some books here that I was going to go through, but we've only got a minute left. So I'm just going to jump to, it's off the bottom of my slide, sorry. It's a lovely book called Time to Think by Nancy Kline. And it's the basic tenet of that book is that, can we take that, go back a slide, because it's distracting. The basic tenet of that book is that the quality of your attention will directly affect the other person's quality of thinking. So the quality of your attention will directly affect the quality of the other person's thinking. So we're using this now in schools with children, because if teachers are trained to give quality of attention, fantastic. That means students will think clearer. Because what happens when you're not interrupted, when somebody is looking at you in a respectful way and they're listening without judgment, you feel free. You feel free to be playful with your thoughts, with your words. We did it very, very short exercise. I would suggest bringing this into your workplaces in a much bigger way. I'm doing stuff now in workplaces where we're changing the way people have meetings. We're changing the way that people interact on a day-to-day basis, and that people then decide if they want to integrate these practices into their own life, because by just creating these little bits of space, we can dramatically change the way that we experience our day. Okay, you can go 2 slides ahead, that'd be great. So can this be fun? So we can load all these up. Yes. So don't get stuck. I just did a lovely clowning course, and the idea is that when we play, if we're not playing, it means we're stuck somewhere. You can play with the senses. In your day-to-day, what I invite you to do is see if you can cycle between the senses. So feel, look, see, listen, taste. Over lunch, I invite you to really taste your food. Take a moment with it. Take your time. See what that's like. Next one. And then talk and listen and connect with empathy. So this word empathy, you've seen a lot of you go to Brené Brown's talks. And if you haven't heard of her, I'll put it on this list because she's amazing. And empathy is one of those things that creates synergy. If you want to work with someone, create win-win environments, empathy is the way to do it. Seek first to understand them in not just a thinking sense, but also a feeling sense. And you will be connected. You will work together. Next slide. So enjoy the journey. You load all these up. Here's my reminder about what we all learned as children. And next one. And that's me. Thank you very much.